Good morning, good afternoon, and sometime later today, probably goodbye. What the schedule this morning is going to provide, as we put a lid on this entire event, we intend it to be reasonably crisp. And so the first thing that's going to happen is our Vice President and President would like to say, I think they have a few remarks they want to make administratively. A number of people have approached me asking if they might have the opportunity to say something. And so my answer to you is yes. If you can do it in 60 seconds, and if you can do that, then if those individuals that would want to say something of that nature could sort of make a line of one or two over here, we'll do that. I'm going to then introduce Jim Peake. Jim is going to deliver some remarks that will pull this whole thing together. Then we're going to turn it over to Mo Faber and his fabulous associates, and that's going to put a curtain down on the weekend. So with that, Al Nason and Peter Braun.
Wouldn't be a reunion without administrative announcements. So any of the bus captains who still have a name, a armband, after breakfast, you could either give it to Fritz Ernst or just bring it up here to the podium. That's it for admin stuff. Later on in the program, Jim Peake is going to talk more about the reunion committee. And normally we talk about our reunion committees and the head of our reunion committees as the cat herder. When Jim starts to talk about the reunion committee, you're going to see that these aren't cats, these are eagles. Every one of the folks on the reunion committee is an eagle, clear-eyed, sharp talons, knew what they were doing, went out for their missions, and did what they had to do. And the thing about eagles, they don't flock. Eagles go off individually. Not these eagles. They flock together, primarily because of one man, and that was Barry Morton, our chairman. I would suggest you all buy stock in the Post-it note company, because I know Barry has a stack of Post-it notes next to his bed, because when he'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to make notes, that's what he'd have to write on. But he kept us straight, kept us focused. People would go off. There were some roadblocks we had to encounter. And Barry, I think the biggest thing you did for us was keep us focused and keep us positive, because sometimes it did get a little difficult putting this together. It was a labor of love, but it got a little difficult. And so, Barry, if you could come forward, please. We would like to present you with our token of appreciation. It's presented to Colonel Barry Morton from the USMA class of 1966 in appreciation for your superb leadership, planning, and execution of the class reunion and memorial ceremony May 4th through 6th, 2018, Arlington, Virginia, while serving as the chairman.
Could you bring me that folder? I'm actually at a loss for words, which is sort of a unique phenomenon. All I can say to the guys is I don't remember that ever being on the schedule and being addressed. And I'm worried that Steve Hanau is perplexed that we don't have a budget item. But In terms of meaningful, I think those of you that know me know things like this are totally unexpected, so much appreciated, and meaningful beyond your ability to really know what it means to me. And in that light, though, what means just as much is the fact that the individuals in this room have had an enjoyable weekend that has created memories for which they'll be able to revisit frequently. And so thank you guys, thank you very much. And I think I'll just keep it moving. So my responsibility, and I think the final one of the weekend, is to introduce Jim Peake. And I was giving this some thought, and I realized, and I probably already knew it, but it hadn't circled back to the front of my memory for a while, that when you say that you just can introduce somebody that needs no introduction, that's really, you haven't really given them a gift. It is actually quite a challenge. And Jim Peake is exactly that individual. Those of us that are his classmates know him well. Some of you that are newer to our family may not have some of that familiarity. And over his life, he has accumulated a number of credits that really do need to be mentioned. And he has asked me not to mention them all, and I will not. But I do think that it's important to have some of them. He graduated with us in '66, was commissioned as a lieutenant in infantry. He attended Airborne and Ranger, and then he served with distinction in Vietnam. He earned a Silver Star, a Bronze Star with V, Purple Heart, and Purple with an oak leaf clusters. That means he was not just wounded once, he was wounded more than once. Returning to the U.S., he made a characteristic, great decision, and he entered medical school in 1968, graduating from Cornell in '72 with a doctorate in medicine, and began a series of training that probably took another 10 years to finish. And he trained first in general surgery after an internship, and then completed thoracic and cardiovascular surgery. And I think where he and I first intersected clinically was down at the Army Burn Unit when I was a burn surgeon. He was a consultant to that operation, and his services were characteristically great. He went on after finishing all of his training to go through the medical clinical environment within the Army, and was quickly identified as having also leadership potential. And they gave him increasing responsibilities. And as an example, he commanded in Korea the 121st Evac Hospital, the 44th Medical Brigade at Fort Bragg, Madigan Army Medical Center, and at one point he was running everything in San Antonio at Fort Sam Houston. Ultimately, that led to the office of the Surgeon General, which he occupied for 3 years, and then retired in 2004 after 38 years of active duty as a 3-star general. 3 years later, he was summoned again to serve his nation, this time in the cabinet of President G.W. Bush, and he was the United States Secretary of Veterans Affairs from 2007 to 2009. That finished active federal service, but it did not finish his work. He continues to work as senior vice presidents and consultants to a number of organizations. Particularly, he's interested in how to bring better health care, more affordable health care, more portable health care to everyone, and he believes the electronic platform will assist that endeavor, and that's what he's really focused on. But I would be here a lot longer if I was talking about everything he did. He knows the issues and the conditions encountered by the combat soldier. He knows the issues and conditions encountered by the patient that is receiving medical care, and that's everyone sitting in the room. And he certainly understands the issues surrounding our veterans, and all these things are front of mind for Jim every day. So I will tell you, when you don't know him well, he disarms you with his genuine nature and his quick smile, but I can tell you he is intently listening to what's you're saying and intently considering what he might respond. He is just a wonderful man in every way that you can mean that word, And I don't think there's a better choice to sort of wrap this thing up and bring the curtain down than my friend, Mr. Secretary, Surgeon General, Dr. Jim Peake.
Well, the truth is, it's been just a wonderful weekend just to be here as your classmates, which is really, frankly, the highest honor of all. So the thing I want to do first, really, is start out by saying thank you to the folks that put this whole event together for all of us. It's been months. So I'll just start with Pete Braun, our class president. Barry talked last night about his decisiveness in saying, let's get on with this. This is the right thing to do. Al Nason, who was just up here, our vice president, who negotiated the hotels, the meals, the services, with always his great attention to detail. Ever since he was my roommate in Beast, he had that attention to detail. And, you know, over the years, Al has put together luncheons for our class here in Washington, D.C. area, time after time after time. Coop Wright, working with the National Parks, who knew we needed a permit to be able to go out there and honor our classmates? But we did. So Coop was the one that worked that. Joel Gartenberg led the Next of Kin team in identifying and connecting with all these family members. That's been so central to what we are about this weekend. And we were just talking about it earlier at the wall. He did not do that alone. So on that team were Walt Brinker and Ron Meyer, and Peyton Ligon, and Dick Swift, and Jack Gatesy, and I hope I didn't miss any of the others. And Bill Thomas, our class secretary, built the email trees and the surveys that Barry alluded to last night about that kind of all of a sudden swelled from some classes had 40, to what we have here today and what we have all experienced. So getting that information together. Fritz Ernst coordinating the transportation out there, running the bus captains among the other firefights that it took to be able to put this thing on. Steve Hanau, the comptroller, worked the financiers for this whole thing. John Dubia. It's not easy to get the Military District of Washington support that we got. But you turn to our former DAS, and somehow that all just worked out fine and allowed us to honor our folks as we would all want to see them honored. And Buzz Bizacki's been involved in this kind of thing before. She's been a lot of institutional memory that has been brought forward on events and participated in the strategic planning. And Ralph Kurtshank, that online registration site, put that together for all of us to be able to connect and be a part of this day. And Jerry Mall put together all the photos and the name tags that has been, I'll allude later to the importance of that. Bob Lowry, tour planning and coordination. And we've all had the benefit of going to places that we maybe have not had the chance to go to before, or maybe go back in a different kind of environment than what we visited them before. And then Reese Barksdale, putting on the Supreme Court tour that I understand, and I didn't get to go on that one, but the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court spends 60 minutes with the class of 66. That's pretty special, Reese. Thank you for that. And Jack LeClaire with Arlington Cemetery, where we have a number of our classmates, but really a place that honors what we stand for and the kind of thing that Wes alluded to today. And of course, Barry Morgan, who took the leadership role in all of this. As you all have just heard, the effort was really a labor of love. He talked about some of the calls. That was not nearly all the calls, Barry, I know that. And in fact, on every single one of those calls, what he was talking about was, we got to get this right for the class, because this may be the last time we get to do something quite like this for the class and for the class families. And so with that, I would like you all to help me thank this group of folks who did so much to make this weekend great for all of us. want to really acknowledge the family members and the representatives of our classmates who we gathered to honor this morning at the wall. And I want to really thank you all for being here while we remember, recognize, honor your loved ones, honor our classmates. And it strikes me the number of class sons and daughters and grandchildren that are here and have really shared this special gathering of our class. This weekend may help you to better understand your fathers and your grandfathers, the values that shape them, the events that even still have meaning to them. I've been watching the traffic on the email this last week. I know Tori Wilson shared the speech that General Stilwell gave to us when we all had that bonding experience on Trophy Point, and after we reported to the man in the red sash. And then Freddie McFerrin, just this week, shared his experience of reuniting with a family of his Vietnamese counterparts. And what struck me, I mean, that's pretty typical of Freddie, no question. What struck me is the response from so many of our classmates from around the country that had shared that similar experience, and it talked to what the values are that we share as soldiers and comrades in arms around the world. Those many responses characterize our class, I think. The photos that we all have make us appreciate just how young those folks are when we lost them, and frankly, how young we all were back then. And knowing them, we can only imagine, but I think we can imagine with great certainty what they would have accomplished had they had the full years that we in this room here today have enjoyed. You know, not each of us knew every one of the 33 of the 66, as you say, Barry, but each of us had some personal connection with one or more of them. Now for me, Skip McKibben and Tommy Hayes were both my roommates at one time or another over the course of those 4 years. Skip was a poop schooler, and I was fresh out of high school. So he was worldly, man. You know, he would counsel me on the ways of the world and the ways of the Army. And Skip was 2 years older than I was. 2 years was a big deal back in those days, if you can remember. And Tommy became my best friend. He was my Ranger buddy. His family became my family. I had the sad honor of escorting him back to be buried at West Point from Vietnam. Both our son and our grandson are named after Tommy. My grandson came in last, so I have a granddaughter whose middle name is Hayes for Tommy. And he will always be alive for me. It strikes me as I look at you all and look in the mirror that we have moved from being the most recent quarter of the long gray line to being in the more recent third of the long gray line. And just as we look back and now really forward to honor and be inspired by the West Point graduates who have been the heroes of this nation in every conflict, the Civil War, Western expansion, the World Wars, Korea, Vietnam, and the current conflicts, so will the long gray line of the future, and so will our nation forever know and appreciate our classmates who we have gathered this weekend to honor. We listened to the word of the choir last night, and today at the wall, in the presence of our fallen there in ghostly assemblage, as Barry said last night, the image of that long line stiffening and straightening was vivid to me. It was a perfect metaphor, because today it was our sections again, as when we did a squad drill on the plains so many years ago, coming online, stiffening, straightening, and gripping hands. So as we conclude this special time and prepare to go our various ways, I can't think of a better way to close than with our alma mater. So I'd ask the Glee Club to again assemble and lead us in our alma mater. And while they are coming forward, if you'd come forward now, I would just ask One more round of applause for those who have done so much to make this happen.